Welcome to Certified Beer Server, session number 3. And we've got an exam on Friday, which has come right up. One thing I don't think I told you guys, though, is we get 2 chances with this thing. I think every credit comes with 2 attempts. So we're all going to be fine. We're going to learn it all and ace it. I do need you guys to fill out the actual credit form. I'll send that out later this evening or in the morning. You just have to put in your, name and birth date and all that good stuff. Real quick, before we start, I wanted to go over the big resource email. Did everyone got this right? And has anyone explored it or have any questions about it?
Done a little bit, but not much yet.
Cool.
Yeah, I've taken like all the quizzes that we've already done together. I've done those a few times.
Perfect. So yeah, we got all those. Did you do the ones for today as well? Did you sneak ahead for the one?
I did not.
Okay, just checking. It's okay if you did. But we also did a couple mega quizzes. I think these are just a bunch of the quizzes put together and maybe then some. And then we have a Quizlet as well. We also have a Brainscape account. So I haven't checked that yet, but is anyone familiar with Brainscape?
No.
It's like Quizlet basically. So I could send that out if I find any flashcards on there. But cool. All right. So just want to make sure you guys have seen this now. I know, we get a million emails a day, but be using these the next few days before Friday. All right. Let us get it going here. You guys can just see the screen, not the notes, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Full screen. All right, perfect. All right, well, session 3 today is mainly beer styles. It's all beer styles. There are like a gazillion slides. There's 84 slides today. Here's the deal. They're not expecting you to know everything about every style. They just want us to be a little familiar or fairly familiar, especially with some of the bigger styles. So we're going to try to point out the big ones to kind of know, they've got a lot of styles to cover. Here we are today. We're going to be meeting from 9 to 5 on Friday with our exam at the end virtually. Make sure you bring your computer is another thing. If you don't have one, if you just work off an iPad or something, then we might.
The iPad.
What's that?
We got the iPad.
Okay, so I think you're not gonna be able to take your test on the iPad, so you can either borrow mine or we can do it in heats, kind of, right?
Okay.
We can all, sharing is caring. Okie dokie. Little score update. So are there any bottom? Giuliano, I need you.
Score 2. Okay, I got you.
I think you've gotten both points for your team during this whole course. So we got to step it up today, my friend.
That's fine.
Okay. Like I said, just a little refresher for everybody. It is 60 multiple choice questions in 30 minutes, and 75% is passing. So you need to get 45 of these bad boys right. They're going to ask you this question. So here's one of those 45 you need is, can you call yourself a certified Cicerone after this exam?
No.
No.
Certified beer server.
Certified beer server. Okay. Always just got to review that. Let's get into beer styles. Sorry, guys. I want to situate you the proper place here. Okay. So why do we even talk about beer in styles? Well, it kind of helps us set a benchmark, right? And it kind of helps us look for what to expect, which can help us, figure out how classic it is, or, oh, it's a little bit like this, but they're doing this a little bit differently, right? Allows us to make sense of a lot of flavors, right? Kind of guide us on the path, as we say here. And it helps us understand the history, serving traditions, glassware, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. All right, so it's also influenced by taxes, laws, wars, and technology, et cetera, et cetera. But here are the main things we're going to be talking about when we talk about each classic style, right? The first thing would be ABV. Usually most classic styles will have a specific range, or according to Cicerone, they give specific ranges for each style for ABV, right? Most people have a pretty good understanding of this. Next up, we have, use my arrow key, IBU. What does IBU stand for? Can someone refresh me?
International Bitterness Unit.
Katie raised her hand and she was about to say, what were you about to say, Katie?
The exact same thing.
International bitter units, right? Bitterness units, right? So most styles will have that range, acceptable range. SRM, does anyone remember what SRM stands for?
Standard reference measurement.
Yes, was that Jeff?
Yes.
Yeah, standard reference method, yeah. Go ahead and give you a check mark there. Yeah, and it's basically a 1 through 100 color range guide, right? 1 being the palest and 100 being the darkest, right? Then we've got original gravity and final gravity. Does anyone know what the difference is between these two? I'll just tell you what the difference is. So the original gravity is before we ferment it, right? So it's potential ABV based on the amount of sugar you have before. Final gravity is the amount of unfermented sugar at the end, right? So that's the difference, basically. Origin, another thing like a Kolsch, right? That comes from Cologne. That's another thing to know about a certain style. Processes, right? Fermentation, mashing techniques, et cetera, et cetera. And ingredients, right? For example, an oatmeal stout. Okay, any questions yet? Nothing too crazy yet. That's kind of how we frame everything. So we talked about the color scale. What was it called again?
Standard
SRM.
reference method.
Yep, SRM. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I said 1 to 100. I was thinking lava bond, I think.
Mhm.
The scale is from 0 to 40. My bad. With 0 being down here, 40 up here, right?
Black,
Okay, then we've got our perceived bitterness scale. Amount of bitterness apparent in a beer style, right? So we call it either highly assertive, pronounced, moderate, or low. Who can maybe name an example of something that would be highly assertive in the bitterness scale?
Double IPA.
Yeah, like a double IPA. Who said that?
Ryan.
Well done, Ryan. Yeah, that would probably be on the assertive side, right? And then we've got the alcohol scale. So most beer styles fall between 3 and 13%. Obviously, above 10%, that's really high, right? Who can name maybe a beer in this range here?
Dragon's Jeopardy.
Yeah, there you go. Barley wines, maybe, yeah. What did you say, Double Jeopardy, Jeff? Is that what you said?
No, that was me, Evan.
Evan, nice, okay. Point. Yeah, so these are just all the ways we frame these cards we're about to see. So let's start by talking about German beer styles. We're gonna do German, and then I think we'll do British, and then we'll do British, and then we'll do a little quiz. So just a question for the group. When we talk about German and Czech beers, what are we probably talking about, ales or lagers?
Lagers.
Lagers, right? The bottom fermenters, right? Lagers. They're known for their flavorful lagers that range from pale to amber to dark. Okay. Many German beers have an elegant malt depth that is hard to recreate, we say. What about the hops? What would we say? What style of hops is Germany, Czech Republic known for?
Like noble hops like Saz.
Yeah, exactly. Jeff, there you go. Yeah, right. And we describe these when you get this question, because you will, you'll get a question about hops. We'll say this style of hops tend to be perfumey. That's the big word. Floral, spicy, and minty. You'll know they're talking about noble hops in Germany, right? Or continental Europe, right? The Reinheitsgebot is a very old German purity law that I believe was formed in the 1500s, right? And it had all these laws about, oh, we don't use wheat, we use this, this, and this. I think we just need to be kind of familiar with it for this test, right? Basically, brewers were using up a bunch of wheat and not making enough bread. So it originally formed for that reason, right? But then also had various other laws as well. All right. And we think that lagers were thought to have originated in Germany because of the brewing season and cold storage of beer in underground caves. Lagers, as we know, we ferment, that yeast ferments, for one, on the bottom and a lot colder than ales, right? So we're storing them in underground caves. That's going to work out well. Pilsner Urquell, this is important. It's the first Pilsner beer, Czech Republic in 1842, and it kind of launched a style, right? It launched, it was a phenomenon, right? People went crazy for pale lagers a lot, mainly because of Pilsner Urquell, and started to try to copy that style. So let's talk a little bit more about German pale lagers, all the rage. Helles, if you ever heard of a Helles style beer, Helles beer, it means pale or light in German. Munich Helles. What's that? Oh, sorry, Juliana, I might mute you real quick. I thought there might be some background going on there, but feel free to chime in whenever you'd like. So Munich Helles is an everyday drinking beer in Bavaria. Think of Munich, beer garden, big beers, right? Okay, and then the German Pils is the hoppier cousin of the Helles. More of a northern Germany thing. So everything we're talking about, these styles, the style cards, this is the first one we're encountering, right? So we've got the SRM from 2 to 5. That's pretty damn light, right? Our IBUs are pretty pronounced, 22 to 40. ABV kind of right smack in the middle, 4.4 to 5.2. You're not going to need to necessarily know all this, so I wouldn't try to memorize all this. That's more of a certified Cicerone, advanced Cicerone type of thing. But it is good to familiarize ourselves with as many of these as we can before Friday, and just kind of some of the bigger sticking points with them, right? Ready, floral, spicy, balanced. Okay. Warsteiner would be a good example of a German Pils, right? And a lot of our slides today are these style slides, and I'm not going to cover every little thing. There's just too much information. Okay, now let's talk about a Czech premium pale lager. This is basically Pilsner Urquell, right? So a little bit darker than the previous, right? A little more pronounced bitterness. ABV is very similar. So you could say, this is kind of nice to have the style comparison here. It's more color, malt richness, and body than a German Pils. Fuller finish and cleaner, softer impression. Okay, and y'all stop me if you have any questions. Then the Munich Helles we talked about. Whoops. Hold on, sorry. Which once again still pretty light in color, moderate IBUs, and more body and malt focus than a German Pils with less hop character. Okay. Very sessionable, right? I can drink a lot of these, I feel like, on a patio. All right. Then we got to talk about the Rhine River rivalry. Say that 3 times fast. So the cities of Cologne and Dusseldorf produce kind of hybrid ale beers brewed with ale yeast at cooler temperatures. So Belgium in Northwestern Europe, still brewing a lot of ales, right? Where continental Europe is a lot of lagers. So it's kind of that's why we're calling them kind of hybrids, right? They have the Belgian influence, so ale yeast, but still kind of lagering them, so to speak. These 2 styles we're talking about are Kolsch, like Cologne, we call the city, but Kolsch, right? Clean, crisp, and delicately balanced. Can anyone name a Kolsch we carry?
Eventide.
Yeah, Eventide, right? That's probably what they're best known for, right? Or their best beer might be, would you say?
Yep.
So it can be mistaken for a cream ale or somewhat subtle pills. It's good stuff. Kind of a little Venice, like dry white wine. That would maybe be the thing to pay attention to if we were to ask you about it. You're only going to get a couple of these style questions, probably. Okay, let's talk about Oktoberfest and German amber lagers. So it was originally brewed out of necessity. Does anyone know why that is?
Is there a big festival?
Yes, I like it. Well, so the main thing is they were farmers, right? You know, people, a lot of brewers were also farmers. And so a Bavarian duke decreed that between April 23rd and September 24th, it's too warm for brewing. So we don't want bacterial infection. So brewers need to get all your brewing done in March before that date, make it through the next 5 months, right? Because summer is for farming, right? So they made these Märzen beers, right, stronger so that they would last until the fall, right? And then you can start brewing again. So that's why we call them Märzen, a little stronger, right? The first Oktoberfest beers were actually stronger versions of the Dunkel. Okay, and so that going back to the farmer thing, so it was a nice, especially hundreds of years ago. You're farming in the summer, you're brewing in the winter. It's a good wintertime activity to do. No farming going on, right? And then the tradition of Oktoberfest starts back in 1810 as this festival for a prince, a Bavarian prince, right? And kind of transformed into an Oktoberfest celebration. All right, and then we also need to know about Festbier, right? Which came into popularity in the 1990s and served in much bigger glasses, I believe a little lower ABV, slammable, right? So let's look at the Märzens here, right? Märzens ABV is a little elevated there, 5.8, 6.3. We're for 8 to 17 on the SRM. And let's see. Yeah, they were traditionally brewed in the spring and stored in caves over the summer for use in the fall. We've got Sam Adams Oktoberfest, right? All right, any questions there? Cool. Let's talk about Bock beers. Does anyone happen to know what Bock means in German?
Goat.
What was that, Gordon?
Goat.
Yeah, goat. Get you a point there. Yeah, so sometimes you'll see pictures of goats on the label here. So they originated in Einbeck, but popularity spread, right? And then there's a Doppelbock, which is a double, right? It's one more. And that's a good fact to know for a test question. The Doppelbock was first brewed by Paulaner monks who used the liquid bread for sustenance when fasting. All right. And then we got the Maibach, which is paler, slightly hoppier, spring seasonal. It's a good example of a seasonal beer brewed in May, right? Mai is May in German. So here's our Doppelbock. Look at this ABV. Woo! 7 to 10%. Big boy, right? It can be anywhere from 6 to 25 SRM. Lower perceived bitterness. A fuller bodied traditional Bock, right? Fuller bodied version. Malty lagers. Here is the Helles Bock, which is a lighter version, right? At least in color, even though we're still elevated ABV. It's a pale version of a traditional Bock, right? And that's what we need to know about the Bocks. Now let's move on to German wheat beer. So by law in Germany, we're brewing with at least 50% wheat, right? Very popular in Bavaria, which is Munich and the area around there. So I got a question for anyone. Sometimes when we talk about German wheat beers, we talk about bananas and cloves. Where do those flavors come from?
The yeast.
Yeast. Yes. Was that Jeff?
Yep.
Yeah, right. The yeast. It's a special Weizen yeast strain, right? Especially, yeah, you get that Hefeweizen, right? Dunkelweiss beer is a darker version of Hefeweizen, right? With caramel and other darker malts. Weizenbock is a stronger version. So all kind of riffs on Hefeweizen, right? So here we got our Weissbier, fruity, spicy, and effervescence. So here's a banana, clove, bubblegum that you get from that unique yeast strain, right? And we got a long history here too. Southern Germany in the 1500s. Okay. All right, that's it, I guess, for Weiss beers. Now we're on to sours. So Berliner Weisse and the Goza are the two that we need to know. And come in, especially Goza, very popular today, right? We're using that lactobacillus for a clean tartness. We'll get into that here in a slide or two, I believe. But that is a bacteria that will add flavors, interesting flavors. So only a couple of classic producers left in Germany, but now everybody has a Goza in the US, right? And some styles are enjoyed mit Schuss. Mit means with in German, so with Schuss, which I guess means syrup. All right, let's talk about these wild yeasts and bacteria for a second. So lactobacillus, very common but very feared beer spoilage microorganism, right? But in certain styles, we welcome it. It metabolizes sugar, but it produces lactic acid instead of alcohol, which is, kind of a creaminess, like a lactic acid. Here are some other things we need to look out for, or you might encounter. Pediococcus, Brettanomyces. You get funky barnyard flavors in beers. This happens in wine too. Acetobacter, which is a vinegar kind of taste. So Berliner Weisse and Goza use a little bit of this lactobacillus. And then when we get into Flanders and Lambics and Goizes, up to 200 different wild organisms. You can do a bunch of these different things. The wild, wild west, kind of just let it ride, right? Any questions here? here is that Berliner Weisse, which look at the ABV on that guy, 2.8 to 3.8. You could drink a lot of those and probably be fine. We had a question, I guess this must have been last year. Somebody asked, we talked about in medieval times, water was not safe to drink. So at what point, but water, but wine, beer, spirits are diuretics, right? They dehydrate you. So at what point, or how did that happen? How are people drinking and actually hydrating? Well, we found out that under 4% ABV, alcohol or beer can actually hydrate you still. It's once you go over 4% that it becomes a diuretic. I thought it was kind of cool. So drink Berliner Weisse and you're actually hydrating yourself. We call this one, this is a good little fact to know for a test question, the Champagne of the North. Lively and elegant. I'm into it. All right, Goza. We talk about this in the same breath, right? Because of some of that lactobacillus, right? Named after the Goza River. And there is a definite resurgence in U.S. craft brewing. We've got sour tart notes, effervescence, bready, and fruity. That's what we're covering for the German beer styles today. Any questions on those? Oh, you got a couple people in the waiting room. All right. I believe Andrew. Andrew, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. You perfect timing to join us for British beer styles. You missed German beer styles, but we'll be able to watch the video later, and we're going to learn a little bit more on Friday. So welcome. All right. So let's talk about ales from England, Scotland, and Ireland, right? So they tend to be malt forward, right? Emphasize that malt flavor, less aggressive hop character than similar US styles. But think about the types of hops that grow in England versus American styles, right? Where do we grow hops in the US usually?
Washington.
Northwest.
Nailed it. Yeah, kind of the northwest corner of the country, right? Yakima Valley, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and those hop styles tend to be really in your face, really piney and citrusy at times. Whereas can you even remind me what the question you'll get on this test is for English hops? They're gonna say
Herbal.
herbal,
Perfumey.
yes,
Noble.
yes, exactly. Jeff, you get the point for that. Herbal, earthy, woodsy, right? And so they're a little more subtle anyway, right? They've got hard water, which, as we know, very good for ales. Oh, there we are. I got ahead of myself. They tend to be herbal and earthy and tea-like. And once you see tea-like, you'll know, okay, they're talking about English hops. Porters and stouts. It was really the first beer to be made in an industrial, I don't know, what do you say? Level, right? Mass production. And it led to stronger versions. Scottish ales, wee heavies, prominent, really malty flavor, right? And hops are not their thing up north. The further up north you get, maybe hops were not as available. I don't know. That's what I like to think. Maybe it was harder to grow hops up here or something, but that's not really their style. So speaking of burdened upon Trent, right? IPAs and bitters originated kind of up here around that area. They evolved from hoppy IPA style beers into bitters and pale ales. And then we got brown ales. So think Newcastle, right? Malty, nutty, easy to drink, traditional Newcastle. Okay, what else do we need to say? All right, let's get into our first couple styles here, the ordinary bitter, the best bitter, and strong bitters. So very popular everyday style, right? These are some that are served on the cask, as in they might actually ferment in the cask, right? The designations denote flavor intensity and alcoholic strength. So it's kind of a backwards evolution from IPA. IPAs were created first, and they were very hoppy, and it was to survive that journey to India, right? But then local palates wanted something a little less in your face, right? So that's when ordinary bitters and best bitters and strong bitters evolved. Okay. Here is our little card for the best bitter. So look at this very low ABV here, very sessionable, as you might say. Drinkability is a critical component of this style. So these originally were real ales. We'll talk about that here in a minute. From a cask without the additional pressure. So just whatever the natural CO2 was, and at cellar temperature. So a bit warmer than we're used to, right? 55 degrees or so. Oh yeah, here's our real ale slide. Okay, so we got a little, basically the association for real ales is called camera, right? The secondary fermentation happens in the vessel it's dispensed from. So it happens at the brew pub, right? Or the public house. It's very fresh because you're literally fermenting right here in the pub. And it is supposed to be served at 50 to 55 degrees, which is odd for us, and low volumes of CO2 because we're not adding any CO2 to it, right? It can be very good if you do it right. All right, any questions there? Cool. Let's talk about IPA. Why don't we? So we're doing a little bit of myth busting, the myth being the beer was going bad on the way to India and the troops were rioting. That's not exactly what happened. More about this guy, George Hodgson, who decided to create a beer that would last on the way to India. They weren't rioting, and added more hops. He actually just made this style that could survive the trek, right? Okay, and that worked out. That style worked very well for the hard water, right, in Burton-on-Trent. But like I was just kind of mentioning, it was kind of aggressive for the local population, or not the local population, for your average British chap, right? So we kind of we backed off on the hops and created pale ale as a style, right? Okay, so let's look at English IPAs, which are herbal, earthy. Remember our two words we described the hops for with English hops. And we've got assertive bitterness, 5 to 7.5%. It's less hop intensity and more malt than American versions, right? Okay, any questions there? Then let's talk about porter. So the porter, which is named after the porter class, which is the poor class. I think porters were the kind of like cab drivers, right? Back in the day, porters. I might be wrong about that, but either way, it was associated with a lower class. And in these in pubs around, and we're talking London and around London, a lot of these, the owners of the pubs started blending beers to make new styles, right? So the original, and this wouldn't look like what we would call a porter today, but it was this guy, Ralph Harwood, right? he said he combined 3 different casks, a third of ale and a third of a beer called Two Penny, which is a strong pale ale, and one other. And I can't remember what the third one is, but anyway, he combined a bunch to create what he called a porter, right, for the porter class. And we're not sure if that's how accurate the story is, but all that to say the style became very popular of mixing beers together. So anyway, the Industrial Revolution is happening in England at the time. So beer also became industrialized, right? And we started creating porter on a large scale. And they eventually kind of switched over to darker malts, right? And that's why, you have a porter, it's usually really dark or black. Okay. Any questions on that? All right, we've got a British brown ale is another thing we need to touch on here. 20 to 30 IBUs, kind of straight down the middle, right? Kind of 12 to 22 SRM, kind of right smack in the middle of ABV, right? What's a famous British brown ale?
Newcastle.
Yeah. Jeff racking up some points today. Yeah, Newcastle, right? Kind of even keeled beer. All right. So let's talk about stouts, which were originally bolder, more intense porter beers, right? But kind of develops into its own style. And Irish brewers really took a shining to it. And so I was about to ask the question, but I clicked. So Guinness, being the most popular Irish stout, right? And then eventually making it more sessionable, right? What's the ABV on Guinness? Does anyone know?
3
4.5.
Yeah, it's 4 point something. I couldn't remember. It's 4.2 or 4.5, right
I
around.
believe it's 4.5, and it's also not brewed in Ireland anymore. For the predominant production of Guinness, it's brewed in the US.
Right. And Ireland, they still produce it in Ireland too, right?
Yes. Don't tell my boss that he's Irish and he goes there all the time. It's brewed in Ireland, trust me.
Yeah.
Yeah, Guinness is 4.2. I just looked it up.
Oh, nice. Okay. And like we say, never let the truth get in the way of a good story, right? So if your buyer wants it to be brewed in Toronto, well, shit. I believe it's brewed in Toronto. Don't you guys know? Don't we know that? So here is basically Guinness kind of defines this style. Would be 4 to 4.5%. That color, pretty crazy, brown and black, even though it's really kind of a lighter experience. You get all that roasted flavor, right? Creamy from a nitro pour, use a nitro. And they were only brewing porter in 1799, and then a stouter kind of porter around 1810. Pretty cool. All right, a couple other styles to know. A sweet stout, a little higher ABV here, right? Or milk stout, you can call it a milk stout, which we're using lactose or milk sugar as a sweetener. A lot sweeter and less bitter. You might get a little residual sugar here, sounds like. And then we got our oatmeal stouts, right? Which 4.2 to 5.9%. Kind of in the middle there, but can have a little milk chocolate coffee cream thing going on, right? And oats, we talked about this when we were talking about different adjuncts, right? Or other grains can add a silky mouthfeel and full body. Questions on that? All right, let's talk about Scottish ales. They were huge exporters of English beer styles. So kind of like we were saying earlier, emphasis on malt flavor. They didn't have as many hops lying around, right? So they're all about the malt. And kind of like the bitters, we talked about best bitters, strong. We've got the same type of scale, right, of Scottish ales. But the one that you should be familiar with for our purposes for the test would be the wee heavy, which wee heavy, just sounds so Scottish, doesn't it? ABV 6.5 to 10%, right? That's pretty high. And low bitterness. Why is that low bitterness? Why is that?
Many hops.
Yeah, there's very low emphasis on hops, right? And kind of right smack in the middle for color. Kind of similar to an English barley wine. You guys want to do a Kahoot?
Yes.
Let's do it.
I was sad there wasn't a slide about English barley wine.
We can make one. Should we make
Barley
one?
wine is life.
Who said that?
Me, Brian.
Who is me?
Sorry.
No, you're good. Barley wine.
Brian, what are you doing on the weekends?
Drinking barley wines.
Can I come over?
Yes. I'm getting the one with carrot cake barley wine from Angry Chair. Like my friend got me one yesterday.
I'm a little jelly, not gonna lie.
So why do you prefer them to what? Well, I'm gonna ask, what's the comparison with that, like American barley wine?
I used to like both, but I just think American barley wines are way too hoppy now and like bitter and like I'm just not my thing anymore. Used to be,
Yeah,
not my thing.
cool.
Why can I not?
Let me-
Connor, I'm having the issue logging into Kahoot right now.
To log into what? To Kahoot?
Yep,
Can you scan the QR code?
what I'm gonna try to do.
Give me trouble.
Gotta be all fancy and stuff.
You know me, I'm always fancy.
Boom, there we go.
What are you guys gonna do without this Kahoot music in your life?
We're just gonna play it on repeat while we're driving.
Yeah, should I make a compact disc for you guys?
I think it should be all of our ringtones now.
Oh yeah. We can also change. I used to be able to change the lobby music. I don't know what happened. Also, who is 511-2587? Who was that?
Sorry, that's me.
No, you're good. I just love it. A little 511. Is everyone in?
I'm just getting a screen that says you're in, but I'm not actually in.
It says urine. Huh? Oh, there's 511 again. Well, I'm gonna just go ahead and
Name is on there, Jess. It's just not
Yeah.
spelled JESS.
There we go.
yeah, you're good. All right, we got 8 questions here. Question 1: compared to English bitters, Scottish ales are generally what? Less bitter, much darker, much higher in alcohol, or more hop flavor and aroma? All right, well done, everyone. Less bitter, right? Because what? We have fewer hops. Jeff with a quick thumb, and Andrew right behind. Question 2: which of the following flavors is not appropriate in a Czech style Pilsner? Noble hop aroma, roast malt flavor, assertive bitterness, or noble hop flavor? All right. Actually, roast malt flavor. Think about a Czech style Pilsner, like a Pilsner Urquell. You don't want a bunch of dark roasted malt, right? They can actually have some assertive bitterness. Didn't fool Jeff or Jordo. Question 3: which German beer style exhibits a clove or phenolic flavor? Oktoberfest, Weizen, Pilsner, or Bock? All right, yeah, Weizen, right? From what? What does that come from? The yeast. All right. Ooh, G Money and Zach on the attack. Question 4: What style includes several sub-styles known by names like dry, foreign, and imperial? Bitter, Scotch ale, stout, or mild ale? These are easy. I'm giving you guys the easy ones today. Yeah, a stout, right? Dry stout, foreign stout, imperial stout. All right, couple more here. Which of the following beers is made with wheat malt? Pilsner, Bock, Weizen, or Oktoberfest? Oh, I love it. Well done. 9 for 9. Ooh, Ryan's on a hot streak. Watch out, world. Question 6. Which of the following statements regarding the relationship between German Pilsner and Oktoberfest is correct? German Pilsner is darker in color. German Pilsner is higher in malt flavor. German Pilsner is less bitter. Or German Pilsner is lower in alcohol than Oktoberfest. Ooh, this one's tough. All right, that's right. German Pilsner is lower in alcohol. Oktoberfest can be a little higher ABV. Couple more here. Beers in the robust porter style are most similar to which of the following styles? Dry stout, English barley wine, mild ale, or Scottish ale? Ryan's gonna pick B just because he likes it so much. All right, well, yeah, well done. Dry stout. Look, that one right there, that was Ryan. Or maybe it wasn't. All right, one more to go here. Which of the following is not true about an English style bitter? Is dark brown to black color, often less than 4%, moderate to high bitterness, light bodied and drinkable? All right, yeah, that's a little split, but yeah, dark brown to black color. Usually not, right? Usually a little bit lighter. All right, third place, we got the Zack Attack. Well done. 3 points there. Ryan with the silver. And, oh, Jeff, well done. We have runners up. Yeah, G Money and Andrew. Okay, remember, y'all, how bad I am at this. So go ahead and start smiling now and look directly at the camera. Here we go. Hold on. Did it do it? Oh. Still better than we've done before, I feel like. Okay, yeah. I got the fakest ass smile I've ever had in my life. It looks like. I'm smiling on the inside. Okay. So we are halfway done for today. So I say I want to take a quick break, if that's cool with everyone. Just like a 5-minute pee break. And we'll meet back here at what's that?
Thank you. How'd you know I had to?
I get to sense it. We're kindred spirits of pee. Let's never say that again, Connor. Let's meet back here at 3:58.
Cool. Thank you.
Hey, Jada, this is Jess with United. I just got your text message. I'd love to sit down and chat with you. Please let me know what your availability is within the next few days. I know that there's been a lot of transition in population fields, and I'm here to help and be supportive, so please feel free to reach out. Thank you so much.
All right, I'm back 1 minute here. Katie, what do you like to drink? Oh, that you heard me. Andrew, what do you like to drink? What beers do you like?
So I drink pretty much anything. I mean, I got really into sours when I was working for Orpheus a couple of years ago, so I'm still kind of stuck on those a little bit.
Yeah. Love it. Over here. Funk. Okay. 3:58. Let's keep this train a rolling. And let's talk about some Belgian beer styles. Who likes Belgian beer styles? Jeff with,
Love 'em.
Jeff with a resounding hand up. I love it. We're going to talk about those for a bit. Oops. Sorry, I just got redirected to a different page. Stop taking me to that. I don't want to go there. Okay, here we go. So we're primarily talking about ales, right? In Belgium, right? A wide variety of styles. Move you guys over here for a minute. And yeast being one of the stars of the show in Belgium, right? Fruity and spicy yeast flavors, right? We've also got our very famous Trappist, our Abbey ales, right? Going back to these old monastic traditions that some of them are, 1,000 years old. Then we've got hops and spices that are usually low and at a subtle level. All about the yeast. Then we also have the farmhouse ale style, and was I guess a kind of a peasant drink, you might say, right? Quench workers' thirst. You got saisons, etc. But Belgium is all about the senses, right? So they treat it like we treat wine, right? A lot of food and beer pairing. Okay. We also, bacteria like lactobacillus will sometimes steal the show here. Brettanomyces, et cetera, et cetera. Let's talk about farmhouse ales first, right? It's the wild, wild west for the farmhouse ales. So it's not necessarily a big style, you say, right? Or a defined style. It was whatever kind of spices and grains were on hand, right? Very few rules: barley, wheat, oats, spelt. Heck, why not? Go ahead, let's throw it in there. A lot of tartness in a lot of these beers, a lot of higher acidity and stuff, very refreshing. Saison, the after-work session beer. Does anyone know what the origin of this word is, what it means, saison?
Does it mean session?
No, it's actually it means seasonal, like the seasonal workers. So I think they're called saisonniers or saisonnière. I don't speak French, but those seasonal workers. So it was named after them, right? And then we got Bière de Garde too. It's similar, spicier, less malty than, or saison would be a little spicier and less malty than a Bière de Garde, but similar. Okay, let's talk about wit beer first. So, which is the word for wheat beer, right? Translates to wheat beer, and hail from Belgium. So, Hoegaarden, basically, Hoegaarden, as we say, if you're a native Belgian, was kind of, this style was revitalized by this guy, Pierre Celis, in 1950s, right? So some similarity to farmhouse ales. Think of the addition of different spices and fruits, right? That's where that kind of comes in. So usually with wit beer, we're talking orange, right? We're talking coriander sometimes, right? Lemon, lime, some citrus, right? Et cetera, et cetera. So let's look at saison here. We're usually like a little bit elevated ABV. Optional spices for complexity. Oh yeah, here it is. Originally brewed at the end of the cool months for the saisonnier or saisonnières or seasonal workers during the warm summer months. Now we got wit beer, like we were just talking about. You're most commonly going to use coriander and bitter orange peel, like Hoegaarden, Almagang, right? Okay, it's fruity, spicy, but all right, so it's very similar to a German Weiss beer. This could be a question. What's the difference? It doesn't have that special yeast character, the banana and clove. But otherwise, it's fairly similar in style, right? Kind of, you might mistake it. When we were doing our certified Cicerone first comparison class 2 weeks ago, we compared wit beer to Hefeweizen, right? Let's talk about monastic. Any questions about those thus far? Cool. Let's talk about monastic brewing. Goes back to the 8th and 9th centuries, where the monastery said, hey, we've got to be self-reliant and welcoming, right? Beer helps with both of those things. So the old monasteries were centers of learning in general for all sorts of crops and things, but so beer and wine, they weren't really making wine as much in Belgium. So the focus was on beer, right? They malted their own barley, they grew hops, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The French Revolution closes them down. World War I and II destroys many of them. The modern styles were developed in the 20s or so. All right, so you've got your official Trappist beers, right? That have protected designation. You'll see this in Europe all the time. They get protected designation. So you can't just call yourself Trappist if your monastery is only 30 years old, bro. You can't do that, right? It's got to be one of the older ones, right? You got to get that government, that EU protected designation. So we do that with wine, beer, cheese, and soaps, a lot of different things, olive oils sometimes too. So there are 11 original gangsters, basically, Trappist breweries, right? So you might recognize these guys here. These are the Trappist beers. Now, when you hear them talk about Abbey beers, what are we talking about there?
Monks.
What was that, Jess?
Brewed by monks.
Yeah, and it also just means that it's the same style, but not these 11 Trappists, right? So here's the styles we have, right? We've got single, doubles, triples, or quadruples, right? Complexity, fruitiness, spicy, strong, and drinkable. You might not notice that this bad boy is 8%, right? If they do it right. And sugar can do that. We talked about that before. I think it was our class that talked about using sugar as opposed to just malts will actually lighten the body because you're adding the ABV, but you're not adding the body that comes with maltiness, right? So that's a good way to do that, to get you that 8 to 9% ABV without it feeling huge in your mouth, right? Let's look at the card for Belgian doubles, right? Can anyone name one that we have?
Home Gang, Abiel.
Yeah, was that Jeff?
Yep.
1, 2, 3. Man, Jeff has already got 6 points today. Woo! Y'all need to sit behind Jeff during this test. Just kidding. Don't do that. But yeah, look at this: 6 to 7.5%, 7.6%, low bitterness. Traditionally bottle conditioned or re-fermented in the bottle. And then a triple is a little more, right? So the ABV is a little higher, right? So they changed the name. The Trappist monks of Westmalle changed the name of their super beer to the triple, right? So it's like a higher alcohol, double. It's one more. Similar to a Belgian strong, but more emphasis on spicy phenols. And then we have the Belgian Golden Strong Ale. We've got a very popular one. Can anyone name it?
Duvel.
Yes, Jeff, on fire. Yeah, Duvel. So 7.5 to 10.5%. Crazy. Many commercial examples have names that reference the devil. And then we got the Belgian Blonde, which is a little more chill at 6 to 7.5%, right? It's a relatively new style. We're talking relative here. Can anyone name the one that we have, or a popular one that we have?
Leffe.
Yeah, exactly. Leffe Blonde, right? We should drink some of these to get a better handle on them. What do you guys think? Let's talk about lambic beers. So some of the earliest forms of beer making. Just kind of seeing what's happening here. A spontaneous fermentation, right? So a lot of wild yeast, etc. And it gives you a sense of place because you're not going to get the same microflora in one region versus another. Changes brewery to brewery. And it can take it could be a 3-year process to make these. You can have wild Saccharomyces, Pediococcus, Acetobacter, and Brettanomyces. What are the flavors and aromas of Brettanomyces again?
Like
Funky.
barnyard funk.
Barnyard funky, right? And then we've got Goys, right? Goiza. Sour, complex, little higher ABV, right? Spontaneously fermented. Got more of those wild yeast and bacteria. So the comparison would be more complex and carbonated than the lambic, with a more wild character. Then we got a fruit lambic. It's a lambic with more fruit, right? But it still has to have that wild character from all those different, the various bacterias, etc., or wild yeast. We also have varieties of it within the style, like, and pay attention right here because they'll ask you. I got a question about this a few years ago. The Creek means cherry, right? Framboise is raspberry. That's the one they're going to ask you about. And Pêche, peach, right? So you can very easily ask you that one. We got Flanders red and brown. Flanders in Belgium, right? Northern Belgium. But they were a little influenced by British porter aging and blending. So it's sometimes called, I think they call it the Pinot Noir of beer, right? Sweet, sour, fruity, spice, oak, and funky flavors you might get from that. Really cool stuff. It's 4.5 to 6.5% or so. Fruity and tart. The Burgundy of Belgium, there you go. So, which is Pinot Noir, right? It's kind of red fruited and higher acid and refreshing, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, and sour, complex and sour. Any questions here? I know we're covering a lot, but that's what they present us with. And you probably only get a few, maybe, maybe 5 style questions. So, and it's probably gonna be the most popular ones. Okay. Sorry guys, this is supposed to be, I believe, the slide after. Let's talk about American beers. We are a melting pot. There are no rules, right? We can do whatever we want. We've got, what's really nice about the United States is there are so many cultures here that have blended together. So we've got beer roots all over the world. What the world knows us for probably best are these American light lagers, right? So when we talk about that, what are we talking about?
Miller Lite.
Miller Lite, Bud Light, Coors Light, and how do we lighten these things up?
Water.
Yeah, and we also we would use different adjuncts, right? We use rice or sugar or corn, right? That's not going to add to the body, but it'll add to the ABV, so it ends up making a very light beer, even lighter than the lightest of Europe. But then on the other end of the spectrum, we have, what grows up here in the northwestern corner of the country are very kind of assertive hops, the stereotypical assertive hops. What's that?
I'm sorry, what?
Oh, I thought you said something.
No, I was saying corn, but.
Oh, yeah. So we've got also some very aggressive hop flavors because that's what we grow up here too. And we're also known for innovation and recreating styles, right? If you think about IPA had kind of died off in England. People were they're all about pale ales and bitters and all that. And we've kind of revitalized it. Same with Goza, right? We're bringing that style back. We're the best. So here's American Light Lager, like a Bud Light or a Miller Lite. Very lower ABV, right? Very low bitterness. And this is about the lowest of all 3 things you'll see, right? 2 to 3 on the SRM. So adjuncts like corn or rice to lighten the body and flavor. And Miller was really the first to mass market light beer. All right. Then we've got American blondes, right? 3.5 to 5.5%. Easy drinking, approachable. We've got American wheat beers. Who can name one that we have?
Blue Moon.
I'm sorry, say it again.
I said Blue Moon.
Yeah, I'm thinking Boulevard wheat.
Mm.
Yeah, but yeah, there we go. So we're using a lot of malted wheat, ready, doughy, grainy. It's the American interpretation of Weiss beer. Yeah, you're exactly right. Sorry, you were 100% right. Weiss beer. And we still don't really have that banana clove character that the German beers have. And then we got the American Pale Ale. It's an American interpretation of the English Pale Ale. So still kind of in that like IPA type of feel, but less hop assertiveness, right? All right, we're usually more hop focused in general would be the kind of stereotype of us, and then drinkability is key. So Sierra Nevada, right? That's a good example, right? What's another one? American Pale Ale.
420.
420. All right, American Amber. Let's see. We're actually using some more, probably those specialty malts, right? To get us that kind of amber, dark amber color. It's a Northern California thing. They call them red ales sometimes in the Northwest or in California. They got a California common known as steam beers. Can anyone, there's a very popular.
Anchor. I win.
Katie was about to chime in and you stole the moment.
Sorry.
I've been there. It's a great brewery.
That's awesome.
Who's been there? Who said it?
I've been there.
Oh, sorry. I can't see who said it. Was Katie. That was you?
Yes.
Oh, cool. I've always wanted to go there. We were just in San Francisco and was reading the history of it. It's because you would see the steam coming off the roof when you knew they were brewing, right? Large, shallow, open vessels known as cool ships. And then, of course, we've got the American IPA. Got to love that. It's a pale ale, but more assertive bitterness, 40 to 770 IBUs, right? Pretty elevated ABV too, 5.5 to 7.5. And if they're asking you on a test about an American IPA, they're going to say citrus, piney, tropical, floral, and pungent hops, right? Modern version goes back to 1975 with Anchor Liberty Ale. Lagunitas is a great example. Sweetwater IPA, right? We got a lot because gazillion IPAs. We got the double IPA as well, which would be a bit more than a double a regular IPA, right? 7.5 to 10%. So that's high ABV. Look at this, 60 to 120 on the perceived bitterness scale. Highly assertive. Woo! What's a good double IPA we have?
Transmigration.
There you go. Moving right along, we've got American Browns. So there's a gazillion American slides because we make every style, right, in the US. To evolve from English Browns during the craft beer era. Texas Brown Ales, they sometimes call them. American Porters, we make porters as well. Stronger, hoppier, and more intense. It's almost like with the American version, at least according to Cicerone, we always just dial up the hops a little bit, right? And make it a little bolder. So you can almost always say that. Black patent malt, grainy roasted character. And then American Stout, which is usually a little more a smidge more elevated, excuse me, in ABV. Hoppier, more bitter, and more strongly roasted than a foreign export stout. And we got the Imperial Stout. These are some of the big boys you can age. They might do one of the few styles that might do better laying it down for a little bit. Rogue Imperial Stout, right? Lagunitas Imperial Stout. Oh, that's kind of cool. The history: first brewed in England in the 1700s for export along the Baltic Sea to Russia. Okay. It became very popular amongst the Russian imperial court. That high ABV and high hoppiness probably helped it on that journey, right? A black version of a barley wine. Very cool. Speaking of, we got American barley wine. Once again, 8 to 12%. Greater emphasis on hop bitterness, flavor, and aroma than English barley wines. Do we have an American barley wine, and what is it?
Sierra Nevada Celebration.
Yeah, and Bigfoot, they still make Bigfoot, right?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Bigfoot. Sorry.
Yeah.
Wrong beer.
All right, cool. We're already back at the old Kahoot. Let's see here. So get your phones out. Is this our last official Kahoot together? I might lose it.
The one that's worth the most points, right?
Should we double the points in this last one? Y'all want me to? I'll do it. I'm crazy. Yeah, we're gonna say double points. If you're feeling pretty confident about it. Let me make it bigger. All right, everyone in?
Wager points too.
Huge points here. Question 1. Which of the following statements is generally not true of American brown ale? Ooh, 18 to 35 SRM, overall malt flavor balance, malty with some toasted nutty caramel malt flavors, or alcohol of 6.3 to 6.9. Okay. That's a toughie. Probably gonna be less ABV than that. I think that's the answer, right? Who's to say? But GA is who is GA?
It's GA.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you got it.
All right. Yeah, sorry. I was looking for 511, et cetera, et cetera. I couldn't find it. Well done.
I change it.
Cool. This group of Belgian beers generally elevated high in alcohol and never made using fruit or spices. What are they? Farmhouse beers, lambic beers, Abbey and Trappist beers, or all of the above? All right, yeah, Abbey and Trappist beers. Remember, Farmhouse and Lambic, we can both use fruit or spices. Now G Low on top. Question 3. Duvel is an example of what type of Belgian beer? Lambic, Trappist, Farmhouse, or all of the above? Too easy. You're all gonna nail this. Yep, 7 of you got that is a Trappist. Well done. Ooh, Andrew right behind G-Lo. Question 4. Which of the following is not a likely trait of an India Pale Ale? Assertive citrus or piney, bitterness in excess of 40, gold to amber color, or alcohol of 4 to 5? Well done, everyone. Yeah, they're going to be higher ABV than that usually, right? All right, couple more here. Which of the following beer would haze be a sign of a likely problem with the beer? Bavarian Hefeweizen, German Pilsner, Belgian Wit, or American Wheat? Nice, the Pilsner. Now, what do the other three all have in common? Wheat, right? And wheat can give you a little bit of haziness. All right, question 6. Which of the following is considered to be a farmhouse style of beer? California Common, English IPA, Maibach, or Saison? Saison. I said that one kind of weird, but we all got it. So I should keep saying it that way. Saison is the right answer. Couple more here. Belgian Framboise is brewed with what unique ingredient? Apples, cherries, peaches, or raspberries? Good form, everyone. All right. Ooh, G-Lo and Andrew neck and neck, and Zach right behind. Remember, double points. Question 8. This beer style has many examples whose names reference the devil. American IPA, Belgian Golden Strong, Dry Stout, or Strong Scotch? All right, Belgian Golden Strong. Fingers crossed. Who we have here? Ooh, Zach with 6 points. And G Low with 14 points. And who just got their team 20? It's Andrew. Well done, everyone. Let me take a screenshot. Y'all know the drill. Go ahead and start smiling. Oh, not hitting there yet. There it is. All right, cool. Sorry, let me save that. Okay. What we think? You guys feel good about this?
Yeah, ready for it.
Hell yeah. Any questions on anything? Any logistics or anything for Friday?
You did say that we had to bring computers, right?
Yes, please bring a computer if you have one. It does not need to be a United computer. If you have your personal laptop, that's cool too. They have Wi-Fi there. We'll all join it and take it all at once. But if we don't have enough to go around, we'll just do 2 heats.
Hey Connor, I have a question.
Sure.
This is Evan. We're having an issue on my team with staffing issues. We have people on vacation as well as no floaters, and yeah, it's getting to the point now where there's no one to cover our routes on Friday. I'm trying to figure out if there's any options on maybe just taking the test or what, because I'm on vacation next week as well, so I really can't run my route on Saturday either. So I'm trying to figure out if there's any options.
Yeah, we addressed this at the 1:30 class a little bit. What I would say is I really prefer everyone to be there at 9 to get it going with him. If you come into that problem and need to dip out early, I'd say we could have a heat that goes at 11 o'clock or after the morning session. You could do half of it with Mark, and maybe take a couple people could take it while we're at lunch or right after lunch or something. Would that help?
That probably would help. Yeah, I'd be able to knock out a lot of my route in the morning.
Here's the other thing.
Early.
Yeah. The other thing is, I would hate for people to come. I think we should all start together. I think it'd be weird if people came after lunch. The other thing is we all get 2 chances with this credit, the class credit. So, if things don't go our way, you can still do it later that day or some other time. So if you wanted to do it in the morning, that's great. Before lunch, after lunch, so you can get about your day. That I think that would be okay.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
I appreciate it. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I know it's real tough right now. In an ideal world, we're supposed to have a design where somebody's covering you for this, at least the Friday. But it is what it is. It's we're short staffed, so it happens. But
I haven't actually looked at the schedule yet. It's not a game day, is it, for parking rates?
Either way, I don't think it is.
There's an away game on Friday.
Get out of town.
And either way, because we'll be there for longer than 3 hours, I'm pretty sure last year we had it validated by Mark. So hopefully that'll happen again.
Okay, thumbs up.
Any other questions for Friday? It won't be quite open at 9. So let's just all meet right outside the tap room on the ground level. And then Mark will come get us and we'll take it upstairs.
Should I be prepared to get an Uber home? I'm just kidding.
I think because you asked that question, yes, that's the answer. Last year, Mark bought us all beers afterwards, which was really cool. We celebrated our successes like we will this time. It'll be great. Any other questions? You guys take some of those Kahoot quizzes and flashcards, and I will see you on Friday.
Awesome. Thank you, Connor.
See ya.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.